Okay, pop quiz. You go to see one of your favorite bands in concert, and there's a whole bunch of people on the stage who you don't recognize. Do you care? Actually, most fans don't. Interesting. I'll explain on today's Rockin' Rant. You're listening to the Ludini Rock and Roll Circus, changing rock history one podcast at a time. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Ludini Rock and Roll Circus. Today is our daily Rockin' Rant. I believe, are we at 20 already? No. Can we be at 20? We're at number 19. We haven't made 20 just yet. So, real quick, the website is LudiniRockandRollCircus.com. Go check that. There's a Rockin' Rant. There is the Ludini Hard Rock and Metal Circus with my co-hosts, Lily V6 and Keith the Hawk Hawkins. Why should you care? Because it's a whole lot of freaking fun. That's why you should care. We go live on Facebook. Usually on Tuesdays, we do a couple Wednesdays here as well, so you have to check the events, but check that. We go live on Rock Rage Radio. Speaking of Rock Rage Radio, go to rockrageradio.com, download the app, and you can listen to our shows in replay every Sunday at noon. So when you're coming out of church and you're, all fired up for Jesus, you can crank up some great podcast entertainment there post Jesus time or whatever your religion thing happens to be. But anyway, so we're not here to talk about religion. We're here to talk about going to see your favorite bands but there's different people in the band, right? I mean, and bands have been doing this for years. I mean, sometimes it's a subtle change. Like Scott Rockenfield is not in Queensryche right now. Okay, he's the drummer. And a lot of people just completely missed it. But sometimes it's a big change, like Judas Priest touring with Ripper Owens instead of Rob Halford, or the big one, Van Halen with Sammy Hagar or Gary Cherone versus David Lee Roth. Most of these bands are usually none the worse for wear. I mean, you look at AC/DC. They were a wildly popular band with Bon Scott, continue to be a wildly popular band with Brian Johnson. Guns N' Roses did it. They've had revolving guitar slots for years, still play giant shows. Fans don't seem to care. There's even some bands that tour. This really blows my mind, where there is no original members at all in the band. I mean, you guys know that, like, Blood, Sweat, and Tears is still on tour, and there's none of the original guys. It's all, studio guys or touring guys, backup guys, and people don't seem to care. And why? and I think here's why. I think when it comes to a bands, there is a brand that happens or is created with the music, the look, the type of stage presence that they have, the type of stage show that they have. And as long as the basic sound is there, it's a good show, everybody sounds and looks good, fans are just happy to go and celebrate that music, even if it isn't the original members. I did a show a couple days ago talking about Roger Waters leaving Pink Floyd and how, the David Gilmour version of Pink Floyd continued on to have like great success. Now, there is one key that I think is really important, and that is, are you faithful to the brand? Like right now, David Coverdale has released an album called Whitesnake. A Whitesnake album, and he's got Reb Beach on guitar, but it doesn't sound like Winger. It sounds like Whitesnake. It still has that brand, and I think this is very important. For example, if, say, David Gilmour and Nick Mason and Richard Wright said, Roger's no longer in the band, we're going to change it up and we're going to become like a folk act, or a techno act or something like that, I think that would have hurt them, and they would not have had the success. The fact that they continued on with the same brand, that the music conveyed the same feeling, the same ethic, the same vibe, the same ethos, all that, the zeitgeist of the band remains the same. As long as you have that and you can really pull that off and you've got access to that brand name, you can have great success. I wonder, because I mean, the Who seemed to have carried on without Keith Moon, and then they continued to carry on playing live without John Entwistle, even though those guys were wildly important to the sound of that band. They continued to carry on. But I would wonder how that would work with an uber important act like the Beatles. I mean, could Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr get together with another guitar player, a couple other guitar players, and call it the Beatles? You know, like, no, I don't think that would fly. I think there's probably a limit to this at some point, and that might be it. But there's times when you thought that. Like a great example is Van Halen. You really thought, well, there's no way, David Lee Roth is and they reinvented themselves, but still kept it's still basically the same vibe. Even though they had more pop type hits, it was still basically the same vibe. And I think as long as you have that same brand, the fans care more about it's brand over band. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to. But that's what I think. That's the way it appears to me. I'd love to know what your thought is. If do you get like pissed off or frustrated when you find out, for instance, I went to see Dokken last year and no George Lynch. It was basically Don Dokken with a backup band. So, I'm a huge George Lynch fan, so I was a little disappointed in that. So that's my question. Do you care? Does it matter to you? Or are you just totally content? I think people are totally content for the most part because these bands still tend to do really, really well. I mean, look what Journey did. They continued to play, like, tour the world, put out live DVDs and everything with this other singer. That's how I see it. I'd like to know what you think about it. You've been listening to Ludini Rock and Roll Circus. Our website is ludinirockandrollcircus.com. Please check back often for great podcasts. If you would like to get some access to some interaction, in other words, like get to hang out with me while I'm doing these broadcasts right here live, you can sign up for my Inner Circle, and that is loulombardimusic.com/Inner Circle. And we talk before and after the recordings and, get some feedback and get a little interaction going. It's a lot of fun. You can find out more about that at loulombardimusic.com/Inner Circle. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out. We'll catch you guys all on the next Ludini Rock and Roll Circus.